Dissidia Final Fantasy NT was without a doubt one of my more disappointing games in 2018. Dare I say and go as far as to say that it was one of those games that I was the most disappointed by this generation, and that says a lot considering we've had games like Mass Effect Andromeda, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, Star Wars Battlefront, and I could go on, and by the way, those were all EA games, but let's not go down that rabbit hole right now. Dissidia Final Fantasy NT, from a personal standpoint, I was more disappointed by it, even more so than most gamers, because I played through Dissidia Final Fantasy and Dissidia Final Fantasy Duodecim on the PlayStation Portable, and I absolutely adored those games. I thought they were phenomenal, and I thought, unfortunately, because they were relegated to the PlayStation Portable, they never saw the mainstream attention that they probably deserved. A fighting game that takes all of the iconic characters from the Final Fantasy games, puts them together in an arcadey fighting game. You've got a quality single-player component to them as well. They were just really, really good games. And then when I heard about Dissidia coming to the PlayStation 4, of course, I was gonna be very, very excited. Now, Dissidia Final Fantasy NT did originate as an arcade title in Japan, and then it was ported over to the PlayStation 4, and it was coming with additional content, but this was Dissidia Final Fantasy in a modernized form with modern visuals, and I was very excited heading into the release of the game in January of 2018. Unfortunately, a game that took a lot away from the PlayStation Portable titles. It was trying to change a lot, and I thought it made a lot of steps in the wrong direction. Most notably for me, and this is why this is coming from a personal standpoint, is that Dissidia Final Fantasy NT did try to take the Dissidia franchise into a more online competitive route, and I see why they wanted to go that route, because if they do want to be a more mainstream title, maybe that's what they see as being mainstream quality, and with the game being on the PlayStation 4, maybe they wanted it to have that mainstream appeal, but it didn't really even get that. And also, well, I'm not gonna say Dissidia on the PlayStation Portable had these breakthrough and blow away story modes. I mean, some of the storytelling aspects in those games weren't all too great. The story modes were still rather enjoyable, and Dissidia Final Fantasy NT was really lacking that. So to me, this game just came across more as a step backwards. Now, the character roster was very good. Now, there were notable great things about this game. The visuals were stunning, the game was very flashy, mechanically it did have some interesting nuances to it, and of course, the roster in the game is really good. You had 28 characters from the get-go, and they continue to add more characters. They've added 6 characters through DLC, and they're gonna be revealing more characters come this March. However, the most interesting note about Dissidia Final Fantasy NT is even with the lukewarm reception since January of last year, it looks like Square Enix is going to remain very committed to the game, and they're doing something very interesting with it, in that now a Dissidia Final Fantasy NT free edition has been released. That has just been released today. Those of you guys with the base game, or if you bought the special edition, the deluxe edition, whatever the case may be, you guys will obviously retain full access to the game, and the game that you own is not going free. Rather, they are offering another alternative, which I think is a great idea, because from a surface level, it's hard not to be a little bit captivated by Dissidia Final Fantasy. It takes all of these iconic characters, throws them in a battle together, and they battle out one another. However, if you're asking somebody to drop $60 on the game, I could see why the hesitancy would be there in that case. Now, this game has been on sale, so using that $60 number isn't all too fair. However, if you do want to get people in the door of a game like this, offering a free edition is pretty important. Now, how does the free edition differ from the full version? Well, in a lot of ways. Let's go through the entire rundown that Square Enix themselves put out. In Dissidia Final Fantasy NT Free Edition, you can play part of Dissidia Final Fantasy NT for free. In the Free Edition, you can play online and offline battles with 4 pre-selected characters. The characters change weekly, so that is the most notable point. You're not going to have access to every character. In fact, there are going to be 4 different characters available weekly, and those are going to rotate every week. Now, if you do want the option to own a character forever, I do believe they offer microtransactions as well, where you can buy a character outright. However, at that point, if you are doing that, maybe just consider buying the game altogether. That's just what I initially thought, but if you do want to piecemeal the game together, you can do that as well. Story mode is not available at all in the free edition. Now, Dissidia NT's story mode wasn't anything to write home about, so that's not a big deal anyway. Since you can still enjoy the online and offline components of the game, hey, you still have the majority of the content and the content that the gamers are coming for. Some aspects of the free edition differ from the full version as well. In addition to the differences described above, there are 2 types of characters that are in the game. So they describe the characters as the 28 characters from the full version. Those are the base games, and I want to take you guys through those in a little bit to see who exactly is in this game. Those characters will be the one that are rotating in the weekly lineup for the free edition, and DLC characters, those are a separate set of characters. They are not going to appear in the weekly lineup at all, so please be aware of that when you're purchasing any of the starter packs. Also, if you're wondering if free users are going to be limited to playing with free users and paid users are going to be limited to playing with paid users, no, everybody's going to be able to play everyone else. Now, someone with access to the entire roster roster will have a definite advantage, but hey, that's just the case in games like this. There are games like MOBAs where they offer free characters every week, and of course, there are people that are playing the game that have access to every champion or heroes or whatever the case may be. That's not anything that's too out of the ordinary. Also, if you're playing the free edition, any progress that you make in that game will carry on over to the paid version. Again, that's pretty reasonable. They do also offer the Dissidia Final Fantasy NT Standard Edition, so that is a paid version of the game, and that'll get you access to the full base game. So 28 characters, access to various game modes, including story mode, and then they also do offer the expensive Deluxe Edition. By the way, Standard Edition is $29.99, Deluxe Edition is $44.99. The Deluxe Edition includes the base game, so everything I just went over, and the Season Pass. That includes access to 6 characters not in the base game, along with their default weapons and costumes, 2 color variations of each of those characters' default costumes, and 2 additional weapons for those costumes. However, it should be noted that it is possible to obtain certain items from the Season Pass in the base game, but you will receive gil for any of the items you already possess. So in terms of accessibility, Square Enix is really opening the door for anyone to get into the game, whether you want to start off with the free edition, whether you want to buy the standard edition, whether you want to go all in with the deluxe edition. Now, I do have to note the standard edition being $30, I probably wouldn't pay that. I've seen this game south of $20 often, and you would think there being a free version of the game that would only lessen the value of the game, but hey, what do I know? That's just my opinion. And with that, I do also want to go over the entire character roster because there is a lot of depth to that side of the game as well. There are 34 characters in total. Again, 28 characters included in the base game, 6 characters are DLC. Let's go through all of the base game characters. From Final Fantasy 1, you've got the Warrior of Light and Garland. From Final Fantasy 2, you've got Furion and the Emperor. Final Fantasy 3, you've got the Onion Knight and Cloud of Darkness. FF4, you've got Cecil, Kain, as well as Golbez. FF5, you got Bart and X-Death. FF6, you have Terra and Kefka. FF7, of course, you know who's coming, Cloud Strife, as well as Sephiroth. Final Fantasy 8, you have Squall and Ultimecia. Final Fantasy 9, you have Zidane and Kuja. Final Fantasy 10, you have Titus and Jekt. Final Fantasy 12, we have Vaughn. Final Fantasy 13, we have Lightning. And there are some Dissidia exclusive characters, Shinryu, Materia, and Spiritus. As far as DLC characters go, so this is a part of the Season Pass. Final Fantasy VI's Locke is in the game. You have Vayne from Final Fantasy 12. You have Snow from Final Fantasy 13, as well as Yuna from Final Fantasy 10. So those are the entirety of the 34 characters available with the base game as well as the Season Pass. But those are not all of the characters that are going to be included in the game. There are actually going to be more characters released, and I do believe this is going to be a part of a new Season Pass, so that's a little bit of a bummer. Not a big fan of games doing that, but it seems like every fighting game these days are doing that. You see the DLC that's in games like Dragon Ball FighterZ, Dead or Alive 6, they do multiple season passes, and they constantly nickel and dime you. I get that just about every fighting game does this, so Dissidia Final Fantasy NT isn't doing anything different, but still, man oh man, we gotta pay a lot of money to get the entire content of the game. Can you imagine if you bought this game day one at $60, then you bought the season pass, and now you have another season pass to buy? Are they gonna do another season pass after that? I mean, there are so many Final Fantasy characters in the history of Final Fantasy, they can really make the season passes go on forever, but nonetheless, cool to see Square Enix stay committed to the game, even after people like myself have given it a lukewarm reception. There have definitely been people that have enjoyed the game, that have been compelled and invested into the game. However, I think it is pretty known that the player base has been dissipating a little bit, and with fighting games, that is a major issue. You always have to worry about the player base, and if the player base goes, well, then the luster of that fighting game goes as well. So at the very least, I hope this free edition does jolt up the player base and gets a lot more people playing, and again, those people can play with people that own the full game. As far as decision making goes, I think this was the best decision possible in terms of the longevity for the game, and increasing the longevity of the game means that you just increase the appeal of the game. It's a win-win for everyone involved, and by the way, the game did also have a PC release, so now you have the game available on PlayStation 4 and PC. I would like it to see released on all platforms, and ideally it would be cross-platform, and then again, that just heightens the longevity of the game, but that's something I think we're still a ways away for the game being on Xbox One. I don't know if they could get it on the Switch, but could you imagine it being available on every platform and cross-platform play all across the board? That would be terrific. Hopefully at some point that becomes a reality and a regularity in gaming altogether. But that is going to conclude this video. Again, Dissidia Final Fantasy NT Free Edition is available to download right now. It's absolutely free. You can take advantage and play as 4 characters every week, and they will be rotating. So you'll have somebody new to play as every week, even if you don't want to drop any money in the game. If you do want to drop money, Standard Edition is $30, Deluxe Edition with the Season Pass is $45, and I would recommend you at the very least to check it out, because while I wasn't a big fan of it compared to some people, there was definitely an appeal here, and as a Final Fantasy fan, I definitely did have fun with it. I don't want you guys to think that I was absolutely negative about the game, because that definitely wasn't the case. Again, that's gonna wrap up this one. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Definitely curious on whether or not you guys are gonna check it out. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.